Hey friends, I'm Shore with FreeMMOStation, and I'm honestly excited to show off the new TERA expansion, Fate of Arun.
FreeMMOStation.com.
So, real quick, a rundown of what you can expect out of this expansion. Okay, so first off, a whole new continent with 4 new zones. And they honestly look gorgeous. But you're also going to get 4 new dungeons with really good boss fights. Okay? You got a whole new battleground that we're going to be getting, plus remixed legacy features like enchanting, for instance. We're also going to get new class abilities and new weapons and, of course, armor to be looted, so lots of shinies. Be excited for that. It sounds simple, but I'll elucidate. Let's take a look at this content in detail. So when you arrive, or more accurately, crash into the new expansion, you're going to find a lot of the mobs being really difficult, like really hard. Especially in consideration to the casual monsters in the base game. So not only are they powerful, but in every area that you're going to be going through, you're going to find literally an army of creatures and baddies that are out for your blood, and also there's a good variety of them too. Luckily, the aggro system in TERA is forgiving, but still, a great deal of the difficulty of this expansion comes from the sheer number of mobs that you will be fighting and facing, and the grind is actually pretty fun. If you play as a group, which the content is really designed around, some areas will have mixed level creatures, like an elite level 65 and a level 60 zone that will one-shot anybody in your group pretty much, if you aren't skilled enough, if you don't block or dodge, or if you're level 65 yourself. The monsters and mobs are all really good looking, and just a little bit crazy over the top with their designs and their attacks. So while questing is still very usual, it's actually really fun, because you're playing a true action combat game, and that makes up for it. Areas in entirety are designed tastefully, but also it's because of the mob placement. The maps are very linear, honestly, but it's obvious that the designers are making full use of that. So they give you some really awesome spectacles, like, for instance, you're being forced to run through maybe waves and waves of overleveled monsters in order to complete a quest, which is on the other side of them. Or maybe you can sneak past them, or alternatively, you can just kill them all, and you'll also get rewarded for that because of the daily achievements. Depending on your group composition, and also how you prefer to play, this new expansion of TERA really gives you room to play around, at least in the way that you like. So yeah, the new areas, they look really great. TERA's known for its impressive sights and visuals, but this new expansion really brings it up a notch, and overall I found that the zones had more character than I was honestly prepared for or expected. Even the quests that were just leading up to the new continent had a lot of laugh-out-loud moments that would later trade comedy for ferocity during the first boss experience and onward into the expansion's true content, which are the dungeons. Now I gotta say, it's absolutely worth grinding all the way up to the end game just to experience these new dungeons. Now they're not easy, but most of all, you truly feel accomplished when you do down them. The first boss of the first available dungeon was terribly fun. Even when my group kept, we wiped over and over, but it was still fun. The intensity of the fight really came from how mobile and aggressive the boss was, and this is something that TERA has over other MMOs. Everyone had to focus to make sure that they were in range to heal, to damage, and also make sure that they were far back enough to not get hit by AoE attacks or give them time to react to those attacks. So I played a Lancer, and as a Lancer, dedicated tank, the gameplay felt very Dark Soulsian, and that made sense, since TERA is known as the action combat MMO. But it just really surprised me that it wasn't blind hack and slash here, which I expected. I thought it was going to be blind, tank, and spank, but actually, you need intelligence and patience in order to complete these dungeons. Sometimes, I would have to, say, get purposely hit by a weak attack in order to save up enough resolve to afford a block for the strong attacks, and a lot of the time I had to actively dodge out of the way, and so my teammates would then have to react to the new positioning of me and the boss, and overall, we're moving a lot. There's a lot of movement of the boss, of the team. There's a lot of big attacks from everyone. And all in all, it was just a lot of fun. It was a huge spectacle for all of us. And hopefully it's a good spectacle for you watching the gameplay. And honestly, it was a worthy experience, though, albeit not exactly a walk in the park. Yeah, even trash mobs had a level of risk to them. And we kind of wiped on some trash mobs, I'll admit it. So make sure you get into this new content with a very serious realization that you're probably going to wipe a lot if you don't have a mindful healer or tank, or if somebody just can't DPS fast enough. So yeah, the expansion makes it really easy to get geared, which I liked, with the leading quests giving you good enough weapons and armor, and also know that yes, with these new levels and dungeons, we're going to be getting some really cool shinies to play with, some new endgame armors and weapons that we were going to be able to show off in main cities and battlegrounds. It's really a given, but just know that TERA your armors look really cool. If you're already a TERA veteran, you know this, and you're probably being really lustful, you want to get into these dungeons, have that experience, get the loots, I'm telling you guys, you're in for a treat. So my suggestion for those looking into playing TERA, to get into the endgame, just go for it. It's worth the time investment to challenge these bosses, and also know that both TERA and this expansion are going to be completely free. If you're already level 60, I'm telling you now to keep looking forward, because even though I just had a taste, guys, I can tell you I'm really more than appetized to play more of this expansion. I hope you guys like the gameplay, and thanks to NMass for the chance, and also guys, take a look in the description for a cool giveaway, and if you subscribe, you'll be treated to more awesome first looks and goodies in the future to come. So guys, I'm Sky. Hopefully I'll see you around, and maybe I'll tank for you sometime soon in TERA. Also, if you are particularly interested in this content, watch the following footage, and I'm going to give you a run down of the boss encounters here in the first dungeon and what I experienced. And this is just going to be a further, more deeper first look, at least into the dungeon aspect and the mechanics of TERA. So I think if you have not played TERA and you want to see what the endgame is like, and for those who are actually veterans and want to see what this new content is exactly like, you know, for the dungeons, because that's the main attraction here, then let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright guys, so the first dungeon that you're going to encounter is in Spring Valley. This dungeon is called the Sabex Armory. It's just kind of like this little temple underground area. And it seems like a lot of the monsters are very earthen, like creature-esque, like insectoid or crab-like. Well, the first monster that you fight in here is going to be a giant crab. But it's not just any crab. So you have the rider and then you have the mount, which is the crab. So you have to actually pay attention to the rider because sometimes he casts spells. And the spells he casts are completely game-changing. So yeah, the crab himself, he's very mobile. He goes sideways very, very fast. He can scuttle sideways, but also remember, he can actually charge you forward as well. Other than that, he does a couple of spinny moves. They double hit, and sometimes he has triple hits. And actually, overall, he's very aggressive, and he can hit multiple times. But for the most part, he never hits multiple times in the same exact zone. So if you can dodge one ability, then most of the time you're going to be able to get away safely. But you just have to remember that his scuttle is kind of homing, so whoever he's aggroed onto, you're not going to be able to just dodge it easily. So if you are a Lancer, like in my case, you definitely have to block it. Absolutely remember that. So there's a couple of things to remember, you know, which abilities happen when, the sort of signs, the giveaways, if you will, that whenever he's going to do an ability. But if you watch the caster, it's still, even then, pretty hard to tell whenever he's going to do the fast attacks. Sometimes he does like this water AoE splash, which stuns. I know there's a sleep attack, and this sleep attack is huge. Like if your party, if your healer gets put to sleep, if your DPS gets put to sleep, if your tank gets put to sleep, potentially you're gonna die in one combo. You're gonna get hurt. So being put to sleep for like 20 seconds, it really sucks. So you just gotta be mindful of that. Also be mindful of whenever spikes are spawning. The special interaction with this boss, with the Archdivas, which is gonna be a faction here that's gonna be interacting with you throughout the whole dungeon, they are gonna spawn spikes every so often, and you have to avoid them. And it's very hard to avoid them because this crab is going to be pushing you and moving you, and you're going to have to dodge him as well, so it's very likely that you're going to be hit by these spikes a couple of times. Just be mindful of that, be mindful of the terrain. And I have to say that so far, the terrain in this particular dungeon is very simple. It's nothing as complicated like you're going to be falling off of platforms or anything, but it's still, there's a couple of interactions there. The arena is smallish, and if you actually get caught in between a wall, or if he pushes you into a corner, well, I mean, there's not really a corner, but if there's boxes and stuff, you can get caught on. If you actually get caught in those corners, it can start to get a little bit ridiculous. It can start to get a little bit too much aggression on you. Like, you're gonna have, as a tank, you're gonna have to peel off, you're gonna have to somehow get out of that situation because it can suck. You could potentially lose from there. Alright, so the second boss, after you go through some ads, and you know, overall, the ads are actually really easy. There's nothing too complicated, but yeah, once you go through the ads, you know, just make sure you pull a few at a time. You're actually going to have a mini-boss, which will, I believe, summon just like a bunch of ads, like a huge army of ads, and your tank is just gonna have to block all that. You can't do anything else. You can't try to dodge or anything. Just make sure you're in a corner. All these ads are gonna come flood you, and just attack them. That's all you can do, and just try to tank them down and have some AoE to try to disperse them, because they're pretty strong otherwise. But yeah, once you take care of them, you can deal with the little mini-boss. It's a golem. It's pretty simple. He just spins around and, well, very, you know, mini-bossy. Nothing too complicated there. there. However, when you get to this next boss, he's kind of a similar aesthetic. He just spins around a lot. I was actually able to just tank and spank this guy. I was just constantly shielding. My team was able to spank him down, and nothing too complicated, but there is one gimmick that's actually really frustrating. So as a tank, in this particular fight, you don't have to be that mobile. You can just sit there and tank everything in a corner. However, your team is going to have to be going around doing all sorts of different stuff because this monster does a lot of AoE attacks. They're going to have to be very mindful of that. But also, the Archdiva's interaction with this particular boss fight is that they do this blood ritual, and because I was in a corner, I actually didn't get to see the visuals of it, but apparently there's this ritual, and your team is going to have to stop this ritual from happening, and if they fail, then there's going to be this huge AoE nuke on the whole team, and it could potentially end you. It's very bad. Make sure you finish those rituals. So even though while this one is actually a little bit more simpler for the tank, it's a lot more complicated for everyone else. Now, on to the final boss. This final boss, guys, is, it blew my mind. I mean, we could not complete it. So this boss, it's an insect-like creature, and he does these giant AoE attacks. And at first it seems easy. He doesn't even really focus attacks on the tank. But then he starts dropping these huge, like, AoE, I think, poison bombs, and he summons, like, little insects that just kind of do damage in a cone, and, like, overall, he just does pretty big attacks, and everyone in the whole area is going to be mindful of that. Now, I know not everyone has a block like a Lancer, so it's a little bit more difficult for them, so they're going to have to really be mindful of dodging these attacks. Now, the previous two, yeah, they could potentially hit your teammates, but they could always get out of range. These attacks from the third boss are huge, and they hit all over the place, so you have to really be moving if you're going to be a DPS on that fight, and that's all I know. Anyways, guys, so from the footage, from how you hear me talking about this, hopefully you kind of get an understanding that there is definitely strategy in these boss fights, and they are exciting, and I'm pretty excited about them. I had a lot of fun with them, and overall, I think it's just really cool playing the Lancer class. You know, that's my personal opinion. I had fun with the Lancer. It was really cool. I still don't know what it's like to be a healer in this game whatsoever, and I don't know what it's like to be a DPS in this game. So if you guys have experience with that, let me know in the comments below. I'm going to keep playing this game. I'm going to re-roll a character or two. I want to actually go to this end game. I want to experience it with all you guys. So hopefully you guys are going to have fun with Terra as well, just like I do. Thanks for watching, and thanks for taking a deeper look into this game and taking a deeper interest into this game, especially if you have not played Terra at all and you're interested in playing maybe the end game and seeing that it's a bit more involved than other MMOs. So thanks for that. Make sure to like and subscribe to FreeMMOStation for more first impressions and news on upcoming free-to-play games. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.